Hello everyone, and this is Julie Willand. Welcome to this video of project pack number 7. We have been having so much fun working on these awesome new gray tiles, but today we're going to take a little break from the gray tiles and we're going to work on the 4 bijou black tiles that you have in your project pack. And then the tools we'll be using will be the gold jelly roll, then your General's chalk pencil and the white charcoal pencil. We're really going to explore these 2 tools on the black tiles today, and then you'll want a tortillon for each of your pencils. I'm going to start with just one black bijou, and today we're focusing on monotangles on the bijou tiles. So a monotangle is when you only use one tangle on a tile. We're going to start with our gold jelly roll. And the first tangle we're going to do today is we're going to do Tripoli. And if you've never worked with the gold jelly roll before, I think it's important to remember that the ink comes out a little thicker than maybe on the white jelly roll, so you want to just be mindful of that and mindful of your hand to make sure you're not smudging the ink. Give it a little extra second to dry. But like I said, when working on monotangles, oftentimes you might be working a little larger, and that's what we're going to be doing today with Tripoli. We're going to start anywhere on our black bijou. I'm going to add a line, and then I'm going to create a triangle. As you can see, my lines aren't perfectly straight. Some are going to be a little wonky, and that's okay. I'm actually doing that on purpose here. And then next you're going to aura one side of that triangle, and you're going to create a second triangle. And then you can aura another side. And you're going to continue this until your tile is full of triangles. Here you can see, kind of going off the tile, I'm imagining that the triangle exists beyond the tile here. Remembering to turn your tile is always important. And there we have our tile full of our triangles of our Tripoli. And now we're going to fill the inside of our Tripoli with a fragment that we often see inside Tripoli. I'm going to start in one corner, and I'm going to draw like an arc to the other corner. Kind of like in bales when you're drawing those rice shapes, except we're only doing it inside of the triangle. I'm going to do another one over here, and then another one. So there we have this little arc on all 3 sides. And then inside this little triangle shape, we're going to put an orb. We're going to kind of squeeze it in. And then I'm going to fill these little spaces with gold ink. And you really just, with these gold jelly rolls, need a light touch. And remember to be mindful of those spots that they might need an extra second to dry. And I'm going to fill each of my Tripoli with this fragment. Your orbs are going to be all different sizes and shapes, and that's okay. You just kind of have to imagine where the lines are going to go off the paper. Once you have filled all of your Tripoli, you can put your cap on your gold jelly roll. You can pick up the General's chalk pencil that you got in your project pack. And I'm going to start by going inside these areas that our arcs made. And in each corner, I'm going to put down some charcoal. But I'm not going to put any in the middle. I'm not going to fill the entire space. And you can do this for each of your Tripoli. I am being a little heavy-handed since we're working on such a dark paper. But like I always like to say when I'm shading, is that you can always add charcoal or graphite or whatever it is that you're working with, but you can't really take it away. So always start with less, and then you can always go back and add more. So I think I got them all. Next, I'm going to take my white charcoal pencil, and then those areas in the middle here where we didn't put any of our chalk, we're going to fill in with our white charcoal. And again, I'm being pretty heavy-handed with my white charcoal. I think if you spend enough time with Molly, you're permanently heavy-handed with the white charcoal. I found one here. I didn't put the chalk, so you just go back and add it. All right. And now we're going to use our tortillon. So you should have one for your white charcoal and one for your chalk. I'm going to start with the chalk, and I'm just going to soften it in those corners. I'm not really blending it too much with the white yet. Just really getting it in those corners of our arcs. And then pick up our tortillon for our white charcoal. And we're going to go soften the white charcoal. Now, and we are going to kind of blend it in with the blue. So this gives those shapes like a little bit of highlight. You don't want to blend too hard with your tortillon. A light touch is all you need. I think, let me go back, I've noticed a few little corners that I missed there. And there you have our first monotangled Tripoli. I just love the way the blue and the white looks with the gold on these black tiles. So we're going to do another one. So grab another black bijou tile, and you want to grab your jelly roll, and we're going to be doing Crazy Nzeppel. So you want to start by just putting lines down on your tile in all different directions. There's no rhyme, there's no reason. They're all different shapes and have many different number sides and just completely random. Crazy, if you will. And then just like in regular Nzeppel, we're going to go back and we're going to stuff like a Nerf ball inside each of these spaces, rounding out at each corner. Remember, it's important that you trace along, round at the corner, trace along, round at the corner, trace, round at the corner, trace, round at the corner, to really give it that effect. If you just rounded at each corner, it doesn't look the same. So you really want to connect them all. One of the other reasons why I love working with monotangles on bijou tiles, it's a great way to kind of get yourself out of a tangle rut. If I'm not really sure what I want to tangle next, if I'm feeling stuck and I can't think of how I want to, put two tangles next to each other, or what to do next, or where to start, or string or no string, or all of these things that sometimes get us tripped up, I'll just start with a monotangle on a bijou tile, usually one of my favorite mac and cheese, and I'll just start tangling it, and I might do 1 or 2 or maybe 3 bijou tiles with the same monotangle. But as I start to tangle and I start to just put my pen to paper and really get those creative juices flowing, all those things I was stuck on before about what to do next or composition or anything like that, it all just kind of starts to come to me. And so it's a great way to just put pen to paper. You don't have to think about much. Pick your favorite tangle, one that you know by heart, and just start tangling. So once you have all your little Nerf balls or eggs or whatever have you in your crazy Nzeppel, we're going to again pick up our chalk pencil and we're going to go inside each of these shapes, and I'm going to add some of my chalk around the shape just like that. Not filling in the entire shape, I'm leaving space in the middle. But I'm just going to do that in each of my shapes. Remembering to breathe. It seems like such a silly thing to have to remind yourself to do, but sometimes I catch myself holding my breath while I tangle. If you're someone that keeps a tight grip on your pen or pencil, maybe take a moment to relax your hand. And before I add the white charcoal, I'm going to pick up my tortillon that I used for my blue pencil. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to soften all this chalk, bringing it right to the edge of that shape, but again, leaving the middle untouched. I love this like bluish gray that the light blue makes on the black tiles. It's a gray that we wouldn't be able to create with the graphite. So once you've softened all that chalk, you can go in with your white charcoal pencil and you're going to fill the spaces that you left untouched by the chalk. So in some spaces you have a large area for you to put your white charcoal in, and in some spaces you just have a tiny little area, and it all works out in the end. And then you want to take your tortillon that you're using for your white charcoal, and you're going to go in and soften it and kind of blending it into the blue as you do that. And there you have it. We have Nzeppel. Our next bijou, we're going to be using the Zentangle Flux. And at first I was thinking that this is a tangulation of flux. But then I was wondering, what is the actual real way to do flux? I feel like everybody does it a little differently. Maria and Rick have different styles. Martha always does a really cool thing where she does flux like on a vine. So this is just another way to draw the Zentangle Flux. I'm going to start anywhere really on tile. I'm going to put an orb. And then my flux are going to kind of grow off of this orb in a rotating fashion. So they all kind of start off of that, growing off of that one orb. I'm going to go back and add these little lines that we often do. And then I'm going to add another orb inside of these two flux. And I'm going to use that to start my next family of flux. And then I'm going to pretend this is a full orb. I'm going to go in the opposite direction here just to add a little bit more movement to my tiles. You can see I'm going off the page here, and then we're kind of imagine that we're going to keep going around and around, and we would have one right there. So you can keep adding these wherever you want to fit them in. I think I don't want it to get too crowded, so I'm going to leave it just like that. And then I'm going to take my chalk pencil, and just like in Nzeppel when we filled out the edge of it but not the whole middle, we're going to do that in our flux. These big petal shapes that we've drawn here. And once you have all of your chalk down, you can take your tortillon that you're using for your chalk and go back in and soften that up. You want to push it right to the edge of your petal shape. Bring some into the middle, but don't fill the entire middle. And once you have all of your chalk down, now we're going to pick up our white charcoal. I'm going to go in and fill in the middle just like we did on the Nzeppel. And then go back in and soften the white charcoal, blending it in with that blue chalk. Again, I'm just loving the gold and the blue and the white and how they all work together. That was something I didn't expect at first. And I'm going to go back and add a little more white charcoal here. And then I'm going to pick up my gold jelly roll again. And inside these orbs that I put down, I'm just going to do a little spiral. Just gives it a little more something extra. And there we have our flux. And we're already on our last bijou. We're going to be working with our gold jelly roll again. And this final tile we're going to do is going to be a Huggins Tangulation. It's going to be kind of radiating Huggins. And I'm going to start not all the way in the corner of one of my bijous, but perhaps somewhere in between the middle and the corner. And I'm going to put down an orb. And then I'm going to put orbs kind of all around. I'm going to do one right there. You don't want them too close together. I'm going to do another one there. Do one there. I have one there. It's kind of going off the page a little bit. And then we're going to imagine that, I don't know, maybe we can do a half orb there. There we go. Then you're going to start with one. I'm going to start with this orb right here. And I'm going to take off and land a C shape to this middle orb. So it's going to kind of be like the old-fashioned telephone shape. Which, yes, everybody here always likes to ask me if I'm old enough to remember those telephones, and yes, I am. But we're going to take off and land just like that. I'm going to turn my tile, and I'm going to do the same exact thing with this orb. We're going to take off and land on that middle orb. When we have these orbs that are kind of going off the page, I find it easier to take off the middle orb and then come to those orbs. And then finally this one, take off and land. So then to complete our Huggins, we're going to add another orb right here. And we're going to take off and land. and then connect these two at the top. Take off and land. And then to complete this Huggins, we're going to add an orb, take off and land, and then the top one. So I'm going to put this orb right here, take off and land. And again, this is off the tile, so we just have to imagine that we're taking off and land. This one, our other orb would be out here, so we're going to take off. We're just going to go off the page a little bit right there. And the same thing's going to happen over here. We're just going to take off and go off the page. So now you can see these Huggins shapes that we know and love, and they all just kind of radiate around this middle one. You could start your orb in the middle, and then they'd all probably be on the tile. But I just kind of like the look it had of starting towards the corner a little bit more. But next we're going to go back, and we're going to aura all of the inside lines, the ones that curve inwards. And then once all of your inside curves are aura, you're going to go back and you're going to aura the top ones here. You only have a few because a lot of our Huggins danced off the page there a little bit, but that's okay. So there we go. And then inside of these Huggins shapes, we're going to just add a line. We're going to start in the middle here, this corner from where our aura meets the other line. And we're going to draw a line that has a curve to the opposite side. And then we're going to kind of aura that line, but we're going to start in the corner again. And then aura, aura, aura. But we're going to meet in that corner again. And then we're going to start in this corner. And we're going to aura, 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 and meet in that corner. So we're working with a little bit of an arc. It's not a straight aura. Gives it a little more shape. And then we're going to turn our tile and we're going to aura on the opposite side. It's the same concept. And you're going to do this in each of your Huggins. So again, we're going to start in this corner. I'm going to add a curved line to the next corner. And then we're going to start in that same corner, but we're going to come out and we're going to aura, 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 and meet back in the next corner. So we have a little bit of an arc there. And again, we're going to continue this process. Turn your tile. Turn your tile. So there you go. You have all of your Huggins filled. Next we're going to take our chalk pencil. I'm going to go into each of these bands that all of our auras created. And we're going to add some chalk at each end. Again, we're going to leave this middle space untouched by the chalk, like we did in the Tripoli. You don't want to put chalk in the auras of the Huggins shape, if that makes sense. Only inside the bands that we created inside the Huggins. But if you do, I certainly have before, it's no big deal. There are no mistakes. In fact, when we were working on the Tripoli tile, I did make what I initially perceived as a mistake. And in my head, I'm like, oh, gotta stop the video, gotta start all over. I made a mistake. But then I had this little voice in my head. Perhaps it was Bijou. Perhaps it was Molly or Martha or Maria or Rick or even myself, saying there are no mistakes. And so I just left it and I kept tangling. And then when we were finished, I couldn't even tell. I couldn't even see it. And then you can take your white charcoal and you can put white charcoal in those spaces that you, in the middle, that you left untouched by the chalk. And then you want to go back first with your blue tortillon, or your tortillon for your blue chalk, and you want to soften the chalk. We're not touching the white charcoal yet. We'll get to that. And now we can go back in with our tortillon for our white chalk and really soften that white chalk and blend it into the blue. And I just love the look that this gives. I like this tile a lot. I think this, of the 4 bijou tiles we just did, this one might be my favorite. I have a bijou frame hanging on a ribbon as a Christmas ornament that I put on my tree in my home each year. And every year I put a new bijou tile in it. And maybe, I think this one might be my tile this year. And there you have it. Isn't that pretty? Now, I'm going to bring back all the tiles that we've worked on today. We have Tripoli right here. Crazy Nzeppel. We've got some Radiating Flux. And some Radiating Huggins. Thank you everybody for tangling along. I hope you enjoyed working with this General's chalk pencil and the white charcoal as much as I did on these black tiles. And again, I just love the way these colors work with the gold. Happy tangling. Thanks you guys.